My goal today was to break my habit rituals. Like, I make a cup of tea and then I'll stir it 9 times and then I've got 9 minutes to drink it in. So it's 9 sips in 9 minutes. Everything in multiples of 9 keeps bad things away, you know? But today, I let my rituals go and then nothing terrible happened. And I've only stirred it once.
Miss, whatever you're painting there, you might want to stop now. Miss? No. 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 This is not my problem. Ah, bollocks. I'm addressing the entity inside. Who are you? Tell me your name. Hear my words! In the name of the Creator, you are hereby commanded to leave this place by the blood of man. Be not and be gone! Ab insidious diable! La pera dos domine! Don't worry, love. Just paint.
What happened?
Spirit took your body for a spin. To send me a message by the look of it.
What's it mean?
It means I've been wasting my time here. I've got work to do. She did it.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for staying. I know it's getting later, but we'll try and finish this because this is, as Doug said, this is the more relevant part because once we understand how the machine works, now let's talk about how the machine is programmed to work, and this becomes more relevant for us. And I said there are several things I'm going to talk about, but the first one I want to talk about is what I call assumption number one, and that is the one that said biological processes employ Newtonian physics. And we talked about that, and what we said is that Newtonian mechanisms are based on the universe being a matter machine, so that all you have to study is the matter, that it's a complex machine that if you take it apart and study the pieces, then you can understand how the complex machine works by looking at all the individual pieces, and then by being able to do that, you should be able to create new pieces and control the expression of the machine. Remember, that was the mission statement of science, to control and dominate nature. Well, that means the ability to understand how the machine works and then replace the parts. Well, the issue about that is revealed in this article, which was in Science. This is a mainstream journal, conventional biomedical journal, and I'll read it for you in case you can't see it. And it says, but perhaps the biggest challenge to reductionism, the concept of taking it apart and looking at it, it says, but perhaps the biggest challenge to reductionism comes from the concept of information. Remember, information are signals, okay? The signals that control. And here's what I'm going to emphasize it now. It says, in biology, information is carried and received by molecules, which is fully consistent with the reductionist principles of physics and chemistry. The point it says is this, that in biology, information is only in the molecules. If it's only in the molecules, then to adjust your body, I provide you with new molecules, and there, of course, is the foundation of the pharmaceutical industry to make new molecules to adjust your body. But the issue is information only carried in molecules? Well, in old-fashioned Newtonian physics it is, but not in our new physics. The old Newtonian mechanism said the universe was made out of matter. It's just like a machine. But in 1925, we reestablished a new view of how the universe works. And it says this, that in quantum mechanics, the universe is actually made out of energy. But so the point about it is this, the world of medicine is based on Newtonian mechanics. It's based on materialism. But in quantum mechanics, it says matter isn't the end point, energy is the end point. According to quantum physics, you can never understand the universe if you don't incorporate the role of energy in the process, because energy shapes matter. Number two, the concept of reductionism. Sure, I can study atoms, how they connect to each other, and look at that as physical atoms, but the point is, atoms are not like marbles. Here's the edge of this marble, here's the edge of that marble. I can say this marble is separated from this marble, but the reality is this, they're energy. There are no edges to them. So this atom and this atom are always touching and entangled with each other. The atoms that are in your body are energy waves that are involved with the energy all around you as well. You cannot get out of the energy field. There is no way to study an individual without studying the energy. So the concept of reductionism gives way to this new understanding which biology is beginning to adjust to. It's called holism. It says everything is entangled. I can't just look at one little part and say that part is wrong, because that part is connected to all the other parts. So the bottom line is this, we're pulling back, rather than looking at reductionism, we're pulling back and looking at holism. How your health is not just a matter of the physical structure in here. How your health is related to the environment and how you fit into the environment. So a doctor or a health practitioner much concerned about how actions in your family dynamics, community dynamics, work dynamics, because all of those are contributing to the functional structure of your own body. So I have different molecules, hydrogen, helium, mercury, uranium, and little color bars, but colors are frequencies. They're vibrational frequencies. What does it say? It says that each atom has a unique frequency vibrational signature that separates it from other atoms. That's how we can tell the composition of planets and stars, because if we read the light emitted from them, the light can be interpreted as to the composition of the planet. So we can read frequency and understand matter through the frequency. Well, the relevance about this is in this picture right here. This is a breast scan. And the question is this: am I actually looking at a picture of the breast, yes or no? Is this an actual photograph of a breast? No, it's an image of the breast. What is it an image of? It's an energy spectrum. And it's interesting. Medicine doesn't recognize the role of energy, but uses all the new quantum physics devices derived to read energy. So PET scans, CAT scans, the MRIs, all those kinds of technologies work on what? Reading the energy. So the relevance is this. They understand that the CAT scan will pick out the tissue there in the center where a cancer is. Well, why do I know that that's a cancer tissue? And the answer is the energy emitted by those cells is different than all the other energy. So when I do an energy scan, I can start to see the character of the cells by the energy they are emitting. Well, what's the relevance? And the answer is this. Conventional medicine would then see this and say, well, then what I have to do is go inside there physically, cut out that bad tissue and remove the bad tissue, only using the energy process for diagnostics. But the bottom line is this, as we showed in the slide about atoms, not only do they emit energy, but they absorb energy. So the interesting part is, rather than physically going in there, it is then possible to put the energy back in to adjust the energy of the cells rather than to destroy the cells. And so the fact is, in the process of healing energies, and we've heard about it for a long time, people emit energies, and that these energies influence the cells. And so the reality is that whether medicine wants to own it or not, physics automatically says you cannot deny the reality that physical matter radiates energy and absorbs energy, and by absorbing energy I can change the structure of the matter. So the fact is, it's better and a longer understanding and a far better way off for all of us, rather than getting in our bodies and cutting it open and cutting pieces out, to understand by redirecting the energy back into the body, you can entrain cells that are not at the right energy to adapt and adopt the right energy, and therefore do healing without cutting out the tissue itself. So the point is this: the receptors, which, remember what the function of the receptors are? They're the ones that signal the process. That the receptors not only respond to molecules, but the receptors respond to energy. Well, if they respond to energy, then why is my medical doctor not talking about energy? Because I, as a medical professor, never taught them that in the first place. Why? Because when I was teaching medical doctors, that was not part of our understanding. And yet, since my research started to take me that way, I realized something, that there's been papers in the literature that have been in there for 50 or 100 years, over and over again, in the hard-stream, main core scientific journals, papers about what? Electromagnetic fields affecting every level of cell biology. The paper in the upper left, electromagnetic fields, the effect on DNA synthesis. There are certain electromagnetic fields that turn on DNA synthesis, other fields that shut it off. The one on the right, pulsing electromagnetic fields induce cellular transcription. That means RNA synthesis. So there are electromagnetic frequencies that turn on RNA synthesis and turn off RNA synthesis. The bottom one, exposure of salivary gland cells to low-frequency electromagnetic fields alters polypeptide, protein synthesis. So what's the point? These are mainstream medical journals. What do they say? That the energy in the environment can activate all of the main functions of a cell: DNA synthesis, RNA synthesis, and protein synthesis. More than that, these papers also show, like the one in the upper left, that I can get blood vessels to differentiate, grow, and form blood vessels by putting them in electromagnetic fields, just putting the cells in the field. Or I can get mononuclear blood cells, the upper one on the right, to start to divide, mitosis, in the field. The electromagnetic fields can cause them to divide. Why is that relevant? When mononuclear cells start to divide out of control, that's called leukemia. So in other words, I can induce leukemia in an electromagnetic field by causing these cells to divide out of schedule. This one is very important here on the right. Noradrenaline release potentiated in a nerve cell line by low-intensity pulse magnetic fields. And this is the new area that's getting a lot of attention. It's actually illustrated in the next slide as well. Electromagnetic fields, biological influences. Electromagnetic fields exert effects on and through hormones. What are the function of hormones? Regulation of the body. What does it now reveal? High tension lines, cell phones, microwaves, they all influence the hormones of the body and then throw the body out of alignment by being in the field. Now it says, well, how come literature says that the high tension lines don't affect people? Because that's what the story was. And the answer is that data was skewed and incorrect, and they were required to do it again because there is an effect by electromagnetic fields on your biology. But here's the interesting little catch. If you are not under stress, the fields will not affect you. If you're under stress, the fields get very, very specific and can alter your biology. So the interesting thing, when they were doing the assays, nobody detected the difference between stressed and non-stressed individuals. Now it reveals that stress is the primary mechanism that opens your body to the exposure and changing of its function by electromagnetic fields. And especially estrogen is one of the highest responding hormones in the body to electromagnetic fields. And that's relevant because estrogen is involved with cell proliferation and cancer. So that there's a connection between the fields now. Now, the signals that come in, let's just stop. Let's end at this moment on that other section. What does it say? It says that signals control the biology, that conventional medicine only, as it said in the science article, recognizes molecules as the source of the signals, but quantum physics, which is the parent science, and all science have to adopt to the quantum physics, so biology has to adopt the physics and recognize what quantum physics says is that energy activates these receptors as well, but I don't have to convince you of that. I already have all the literature in the papers right now that energy does the same as molecules, so energy healing is not some kind of made-up thing or some kind of, being some quackery. Energy healing is real because energy is more effective in controlling biology than molecules are, and that's according to physics. So the bottom line is we have ignored the role of energy because conventional medicine is locked back in a pre-1925 version of physics. But in 1925, when quantum physics came in, it says you must include the energy in the equation.
What did you do to your uniform?
They got in her head, just like we thought.
The Supreme Intelligence will set her straight.
You lied to me.
I made you the best version of yourself.
What's given can be taken away.
Let me out.
No can do.
If you hurt them, I will burn you to the ground.
With what exactly? Your power comes from us.
You didn't give me these powers. The blast did.
And yet you've never had the strength to control them on your own. You did good, Ace. Thanks to you, those insidious shapeshifters will threaten our borders no more.
I used to believe your lies, but the Skrulls are just fighting for a home. You're talking about destroying them because they won't submit to your rule. And neither will I.
We found you. We embraced you as our own.
You stole me. From my home, my family, my friends.
It's cute how hard you tried. But remember, without us, you're weak. You're flawed. Helpless. We saved you.
Control.
I'll never let you fly.
Say it again.
Without us, you're only human.
You're right. I'm only human.
Paula, you are reborn.
Veers.
My name is Carol.
She's trying to break out.
I've been fighting with one arm tied behind my back. But what happens when I'm finally set free?
You know you're glowing, right?
I'll explain it later.
Hey, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing and Servant of Truth with you once more. As always, thank you for being here into the sort of stuff which is quite rare in itself and allowing me, in all that needle of all the information out there, in the haystack of all the information, to find me, let alone accept me and take on board what I say and employ it. And ideally I help you to have a really magical, incredible existence on this amazing planet we call home, right? Despite everything that's going on. So today, the way I work is I just process things and I get thoughts and concepts and what I might want to work with and play with, and I might get this variable months back and it's there, and I take a note and I sort of keep notes of all the concepts and all that sort of stuff that I want to offer and add to my themes and all that sort of stuff. But what I feel is that there's an opportunity to talk about something, and don't take it as me as being an expert or anything like that. I just have my perspectives on things that I employ, and through all my 18 years of doing all this sort of stuff to get to this point, to feeling comfortable to be able to offer my own original concepts and stuff like that, because I just haven't found the solutions in society or in the spiritual and alternate communities and stuff, and I've explored them and employed them as best I can and whatever level I'm at, sort of thing. And I don't feel I'm the most aware sort of being out there. I've just got my talents and my skill sets and my strengths and my work ethic and tenacity and resilience and adaptability and all those sort of things, right? And situation awareness, if I go back to my last in our intuitive potential theme. So I've offered some of the bigger stuff relative to my Amplify the Echo series, and then I've delved into the money sort of stuff, and what I always try to do is impart data for your pattern recognition, right? that's always a foundation, because I feel the gap of what's going on versus what most people know and the what is vast. So I do these releases that are quite long, but they're aimed to be a reference point of an investment, and ideally each is a unique variable relative to the acquisition of data, right? And so I've what theme do I go with, where do I want to go, and stuff like that. And so I've offered a lot of, say, the bigger concepts and the reality stuff, but some of the real core things that I offer is how do we navigate all that, right? What are some tools? To me, it's always one of the biggest profound things. Doesn't matter whatever level you're at. It's always been about the context, right? To get to the actual information of everything. So then how do we employ that context to work out the what is, to then find solutions and stuff, right? So I'm going on a bit of a tangent of the theme that I'm in, because I think there's a lot to be said about what's going on and how that trickles back to the bigger amplify the echoes, and I've got more to say on all those things. But in my appreciation over all this, it's always about how can I help you as an individual? How can I shortcut 18 years to get you up to speed ASAP, right? And yes, I offer a lot of the influences, a lot of the nasty stuff on a big scale that we've been up against, and then the horrible reality of the society and all that sort of stuff, which is just fascinating. But then how do we find the sweet spot in that to overcome it all, right? I'm all about, yes, all this stuff is going on, it's potentially vast, it goes back a long way, it's vast in the mechanics of the dimensional levels and all that sort of stuff. If you've gone through my multi-dimensional method to 3D Madness series, and the one I released last with the Bruce Cathey clip about back in the late 60s, the system was working at 15D, right? So it's not about what is comfortable for us, what we would like it to be. I'm always about the what is, and how do we gain the data to fill in the gaps and then create solutions in it and stuff, right? So I've been thinking about going in tangent relative to the influences, and I got into, say, hauntings and soul hijacks and all that sort of stuff, and talking about these sort of things because I've got some good ways to talk about it. But I felt like in order to talk about them things, there's a variable that I could employ, but I was thinking, how do I introduce this? And it's related to the energy field mechanics, okay? And so in all that I've offered, and the way I work in my psychic surgery, I do psychic surgery and I do it remote and stuff, and I clear out relative to the mechanics I've worked out that I've imparted as a tool in the sovereignty declaration, and I offer that to anyone that wants to be serious about this, to clear out the stuff in the levels that they can't perceive, right? And so relative to the entities and all that sort of stuff, I have my own perception of the mechanics of them. To give you a ballpark of how it works, so if you're influenced and you've got to dig yourself out of it to get that observer mode to see it, and then maybe get experiences, or say if I've interacted with you or you seek me out for healing, I'll try and impart what I'm getting and what I'm sensing. Some people are very sensitive, some people aren't, but you might just get relief, and things like stress, like the body adrenals are triggered and you're low energy and you're not getting good sleep and all that sort of stuff, or you got negative dreams, or your body's not just repairing and stuff like that. And then I do what I do and it comes back, and a lot of people, it's a bit like a rolling an ankle. You know it when it's painful, but most of the time we don't focus on our ankles and we just walk and take steps, and we're focused about getting to our destination sort of thing. And so when you get clear, you may not have the comprehension of all the mechanics, but maybe I've done some freaking amazing stuff, and so I feel there's an opportunity to talk about the energy field and energy field mechanics. And I was thinking about introducing it into our intuitive potential theme, or infinite potential healing theme as well, because it's offering about the mechanics that I operate at. But I'm actually going to start a new theme relative to energy field mechanics, right? And this will be the first part, right? Because I feel it's valid for a reference of a entire theme, and then I can get a bit more complicated or add more data. You guys that have been around me and are hardcore into all of this stuff, you would appreciate Sabrina Wallace is out there, and I've been looking to offer her stuff, and she came into my awareness about October 2023, if you remember. That was the real parabolic of getting into the GSFs and missions and stuff like that, and it filled a real gap in the awareness I've been searching for all these 18 years. And she offers the Internet of Body, Internet of Thoughts, and all the very advanced tech relative to what's going on out there that is decades ahead of things that most people in the community aren't talking about. And she outs a lot of the mechanics of what's going on, and there's a lot in the community sort of out in the alternative and spiritual community that are misguiding us and saying it's these sort of things and that, but it's actually a system sort of mechanics that's been running in the background that she offers. And if you've gone through my sovereignty declaration relative to the AI stuff and all of that, and my background as an IT engineer 20 years ago, it's crazy, 20 years ago, but I was in the trenches when a lot of this stuff was going on, and it's still so advanced now that she's talking about it, and it's 20 to 30, 40 years old. But one of the really cool things that she is about is our biofield, right? And the lowdown and the long story short is that what she talks about is the biofield was, the concept of the biofield was removed from society about the mid-18th or the mid-19th century, like 1850, 1870. And what she links up from there to now is that basically 80% of our immune system is related to our energy field, right? And so if we live in a society that there's no concept of it, but there's potentially all the influences that go on in the energy field and the layers that go on and stuff, then we can appreciate how the setup of failure and the vulnerability is going on for the influences going on and all that. So that's where I've embraced all this stuff with the what is of what's going on. It's not what's comfortable, and a lot of it is freaking nasty crap, right? It's horrible just to even contemplate the variable. And then, you know, if you expand in your awareness and you become like a guardian sort of shaman of your community and society and humanity and earth, and you want the best for everything, and then you see the massive gap in the vulnerability. I've talked about it. You see the gap, and it's the leadership, you step into it, right? It's not about like allowing whatever's out there to be affecting you. It's appreciate that your awareness gone up to be able to perceive all this. And then it comes down to what are you going to do, right? Do you want to complain and whinge and whine and check out, or defeatist attitudes and all this sort of stuff, or do you want to do something about it? Well, for me, I've freaking done something about it. I've totally committed at this level, sought out the people that I felt or thought were superior and ideally on our sides and stuff like that, and I've had to prove all of this crap, right? That it's just nasty, and I've gone into all different teachers and worked out the teachers, say Ashiana Dean and all that sort of stuff, and she helped me flip all the Akasha Bullshitter records, and just like I've invited, and I worked out, see, the Akashic records is just a big file on a planet, right? That's downloaded, that trickles down with all the corrupt DNA and all that. But who else has even invited a concept that's going on, right? Because it's not comfortable. It's beyond our frame of reference, and in our society, it's like, oh, we can't download files on planets, like our 3D 5 cents and politics and all that. And it's like, taking on all the data, it's like we have to invite a bigger level of thinking and all that sort of stuff. So I've led on those sort of things. The key is always to be clear, right? If you're not clear, then your perceptions can get corrupted, and also you might think, oh, I got to save the world, I got to do earthwork and all this sort of shit, and you're freaking compromised as F, and you're doing negative stuff on the earth and all that, and you're not taking responsibility of your energy field, and you're clearing and being hygienic and stuff like that. So what I've felt is, and this is why it's always been, like, I've always invested a lot in my healing, and what's the byproduct of the potential of being clear, right? So there might be like, you need to be clear to get a potential of just have a thought, right, of getting above like all the state that you're in to get clear, to be able to have an inspirational moment of putting it all together. And to me, the greatest potential that we individually have, and then the collective as a whole, is if we take responsibility of our energy and our hygiene and stuff, what's the potential there, right? And I would invite, and I've said this, like, you interact with practitioners or groups or society or your family and all that, how much energy hygiene do they do? Do they do any of it? Do they do any healing at all? And they might do one every 2 or 3 years and they think they're healed, and they don't do it, and then shit happens to their lives, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? So it's just, to me, it's more imperative now that we retreat to be responsible for ourselves and then see what happens with that. And I do remote, I don't need to go anywhere, sort of thing. And then I'm always like, if I'm leading and I'm being the example, I'm always maintaining myself, clearing myself, because being clear is so worth it, right? And like me as a practitioner and a healer, it's just like, there are vastly more aware people out there than me and all that, and I accept that. But I just have this mechanics that is, I'm very happy with it, and I'm solid, and I, like, this is a joke, like, actually seeing shit, like, I reckon if I saw shit that I'm dealing with, I'd freak out, right? So in a way, like, my perceptions are protecting me from all the crap and nasty crap that I'm dealing with that would spook the shit out of me, right? And I'll get into spooking and stuff relative to like the emotional sort of level and that. So I just, the way I, in my world, and how I endeavor to be is clear me as best I can. So whoever needs to fall back, then I'm ready for it. But it's also interesting because the influences that might be in the field is like projecting sort of thing, and then it reflects and think I'm compromised and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, once you get that and you realize all these things go on, then you can see through it. And ideally, again, I come back to all the information I offer. It might give you a different perspective that you take on board and you invest in it, and then it unlocks something that can clear that, but it also is like conscious Tetris sort of stuff, right? So what I want to do is energy field mechanics part 1, and the contents of this will be many images. I spent a lot over these last few weeks, and I've been doing many things, sessions and other things that have just played out, which are pretty epic, that I'm not going to get into. I'm just surviving and maintaining myself and all the interesting things going on. But this is going to be about energy field mechanics part 1, the energy field, biofield, body relationship, influences, society, and some psychic defense sort of stuff, right? So again, I want to introduce Sabrina Wallace. So I haven't actually made the clip, and I was looking for the section where she talks about the biofield and stuff, and I was just going through my old releases and stuff that I've done, and I've got a lot of her stuff that I haven't even looked at, and it's challenging to watch. And she's just been smashed and stuff, but she's doing what she can do. But I would offer that she doesn't offer solutions, right? She offers a lot of data, and then there's her path that she's been on that she refers to and falls back on. But I would offer that I'm about solutions, right? To me, it's every problem has a solution. What do we need to do to find that and stuff? And to me, it's embracing the what is, and that's where they're going into pure source and the dimensional mechanics and chipping away at the spiritual no man's land to working out what's going on. And the simple solution is, or the simple attitude to have is, if we were inferior, why would they need to do all this stuff? So then the logic is that we are superior, and then what is our superiority? So to me, I've created the mechanics relative to all that is superior, and you just have to employ them. And the reason why I'm offering this energy field mechanics sort of thing is you may not have the awareness of all this stuff, and that's cool. You don't have to like develop a thing to see the outer range of your field and all that. I'm just inviting an embracing of this sort of mechanics and see what happens. And a lot of it isn't like going over there and doing stuff. It's changing a state in yourself. Emotions, energy hygiene, your energy levels, your attitude, your beliefs. If you just embrace the data and process it, then see what happens. And it might be a good template and a reference that you actually, that's what's going on, and it percolates through. And so this framework will potentially in the future, you got to, if you keep chipping away at what you're doing, you're just going to take the leadership on yourself and accept yourself, and that will be the launch pad and all this sort of stuff. And you'll be able to refer back to this as the mechanics. That's what I was getting. I remember, say when I was connecting my first computer to the internet back in 1999, it took me like 6 months to even understand connecting a network. But when I got it, it was like, the reaction. And then I could do it all the time, and I built on that and connecting networks and stuff like that. It might take you a lot to get there, but then you might get the aha moment, and then you start putting it all together. Or you've got experiences in the past that haven't made sense. Maybe you've come to me for sessions and I've said all this stuff, and you can go back and listen to recordings of when I'm picking up stuff and all that, but you may not feel it. You feel better after, and you're clear, and you're not in fear or stress and stuff like that. And so you've had that experience that you don't have the reference for, and this will ideally give you a reference sort of material sort of thing. So I hope that helps. I hope it's an interesting introduction and stuff. I also want to employ a Bruce Lipton clip that's about 20 minutes, but I don't know how long this will be, and this might be a good introduction. Maybe I'm not satisfied with what I do, but I get what I need to get done, and then I want to do a better job and stuff like that, or build upon it. I'm not trying to make this too advanced either. I make not entry, but a really good reference, and ideally it helps you at an entry sort of intermediate level to have a really solid reference of this. And I appreciate there's a lot of concepts out there and stuff like that. And I've got a book that I'll just show a couple of images and stuff. And I might just show that now, right, quickly. I've shown this book in the past. I can't remember when. Might be emotional mastery sort of stuff, right? But it's Subtle Body by Cindy Dale. And I'm not saying I agree with all the concepts in it, but it's a good reference of, say, the spiritual narratives of things and the mechanics and traditional medicine, Chinese medicine, acupuncture points and all that. So it might be a really cool book to have and invest in, to have a reference if you like books and stuff, if you're into that sort of thing, or you're looking for anything like that, right? I'm just going to share your page. So I hope you can see it. It's a bit hard to have it open with one hand holding the phone and stuff. But this is sort of a metaphor of how society and the spiritual community sees energy bodies and stuff like that. A lot of them might be like emotional, mental, spiritual, multidimensional and all that. I don't know them all specifically. But what I'm just inviting is they have a mechanics that's pretty static, right? And it's sort of a template for everyone and stuff. And I'm going to invite a different appreciation of it, alright? Because I don't think it's static. I think it's unique in any moment, every breath, every emotional state, all the data you acquire, your beliefs, society influences and stuff, and the entities and all that sort of stuff, and influences. So I'm going to employ some of the stuff that I talk about, but in reference to an energy field in the dimensional level, sort of basic ballpark, just to show you the mechanics, but not to be precise and accurate. It's just examples. But I'm just inviting that, any moment you can shift your energy field, I feel. Attitudes. That's why I'm big on all those clips that I show you, different attitudes to take and stuff like that. the emotional mastery series, like Fear and Love and all that, relative to the data you accept and all that. So I'm just wanting to offer that, and it's a really, I'm not calling her out or anything, it's a good reference, and it's a really beautiful, amazing book, and we don't really see books much, right? So me just showing you wisdom like that, it might be an awesome tool to have, right? This is just another page that's in it, and it's just related to the meridians and acupuncture points and all that sort of stuff, right? Because what I've got is just some reference sort of stuff relative to that, right? The acupuncture metaphor, because to me it's like the Sabrina Wallace stuff talks about 80% of our immune system is the energy field, and the wisdom that was lost from about the mid-19th century, like the 1850s, 1870s, where they removed the energy field as a concept. And I've got the whole medical sort of stuff in my sovereignty declaration, but to me, I feel like the acupuncture sort of stuff is the trickling down of the energy and the relationship to the physical body sort of stuff, right? So there's a mechanics relative to that I'm just going to get into a bit. But I'm offering that as a relationship of how energy relates to the physical sort of stuff, and there's mechanics in the body. Right? I'm just going to move on. So what I want to do now, I've got a whole range of images that I want to go through, and it expands upon, say, my spiritual no man's land and the data acquisition and stuff, and the emotional mastery, energy levels and influences and stuff. And ideally, I really feel that this will be a catalyst of getting a lot of aha moments and how it works, and then you can get past. I have mosquitoes around. If I jump around, I'm dealing with them. But I feel this will really help people get some big aha moments to see how it all relates to your energy field and how you interpret data and navigate this world, and stuff that might get in that you don't know, because once it's in it, you can be blinded and a gap in your awareness and stuff like that. Right? So I've got some basic energy field sort of images. I've been creating them all week, acquiring the components of how do I translate this and make it quite simple. This is not meant to be PhD level sort of stuff. It's just an ally for you to see the relationship and just realize like we are energy, right? And I have this really awesome Bruce Lipton clip that maybe I've shown at the start, where he talks about we must appreciate the energy sort of stuff, right? And if I have shown it or I haven't shown it, he talks about how stress opens us up to the influences and stuff. So the fear state and society influences and all that, and they might be a catalyst for disarming our field sort of thing to open us up, right? So maybe I've shown that at the start. I'm not sure how long this will be, so I don't want it to be a War and Peace sort of video that I tend to like to do, right? I tend to make these big investments and stuff, and this being part one of my energy field mechanics, it's a big marker point and a reference for a lot of things. But I also want to show some Sabrina Wallace stuff, right? So before I get into this, I might just show a clip of her. I was looking for the right one, because I know she talks about the 80% of our immune system is our biofield sort of stuff, and the information where it was lost, and the books she talks about, plus the Internet of Bodies and many things related to that. And I found a really good one, and there's about 40 minutes out of it I want to probably show, but I might show 10 or 15 minutes here, right, as a really good reference point of her and all that she's been through to bring this information. But again, I would invite, she doesn't offer solutions like many people, and there's the scales of it and all that sort of stuff can be overwhelming. But I would invite, like, I've worked out the solution sort of stuff from my perspective, right? And that's what I do with people to help the individual. And like I said before, it's not about going out and saving the world or humanity. It's like you being on your game and then see what you can perceive. So I would invite that sort of master yourself, then see what the perceptions allow you to perceive, right? Rather than maybe being run by stuff and influenced. And, you know, especially if you do sort of earth stuff or public stuff or with groups, it's like, what do you bring into the group? And I've got some group images that I want to show, all right? So I'm just inviting, like, raise your bar on your personal responsibility. Not that it's a handicap. It will be, from my perspective, the edge to be superior to a lot of the stuff that most people run by, that they have no concept. Like, society just doesn't accept this stuff, right? So I'm inviting you to, you know, invest and acquire the data and then see how it percolates through to your life, right? So I'm going to leave you with a Sabrina Wallace clip. I'm not sure how long it is, and I'll see you on the other side to give you some images about what I've created relative to this, all right? So enjoy. I'll see you on the other side.
What am I showing you? Number one, this is the Biofield. You used to know it as the aura. Where's yours?
I grew up in the country.
The Biofield is a body part. The aura is a body part. Why doesn't anybody know that? Information, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Now admit it.
And that inspires me to write about what I feel. And not what people just want to hear.
Don't lie about it. Why aren't you allowed to talk about your own body? It's not an accident. Surveillance. Now stop pretending that didn't come from our own veterans. And stop pretending that everybody doesn't have a body part involved with all of this. Pentagon, 2020. Project Maven. EEG, radio frequency, looking glass. And what did Shaboter and O'Brien and everybody else who came before me tell you about looking glass? Well, they didn't tell you it was for looking through your body with radio frequency on the daily. Well, I know why you believe that. There's been a lot of truthers out there that have been very, very disingenuous. And they've been paid very well to keep their mouths shut or to provide disinformation as part of something called fifth generation warfare. If you're unfamiliar with that phrase and you're an adult, please Google that now. Pause the video and come back. Fifth generation warfare is where all these psychological operations are coming from in the following manner. Fifth generation warfare is driven not with tanks, not with gunfire. No. Fifth generation warfare takes casualties with narrative driving to get you to commit suicide, to get you to give up, to get you to shut down, to get you to not know where to go, to get you confused, and to keep you confused. That's why I told you to go look it up, because of what I'm about to explain. And I'm done with those of you giving credit to people who've been out there now, because I've only been out on the internet since April 2022. But I've been watching all this nightmare since 2018. So if you're going to give credit to the very same people who told our good people to count how many times witches were casting spells on them, and you're still giving them your time, your ear, your money, your faith, and your goodness, you're in trouble. You're in big, big trouble. And I'm tired of it. I am right in the middle of all of this mess because I survived it when I was little. So instead of being able to come out here and engender empathy and sympathy like Kathy and Jesse did, I have to deal with all the shitstorm because I told the truth about what they do and how they really do it. It's a body part. They get to use it. They get to screw with it. You get told take drugs. You get told you're nuts or nothing at all. Nurses, radiologists, they hide the implants. The people in EMS, they don't have to tell you where they're going, and they don't have to be honest about what phone line came from where. The doctors themselves, they don't got to say a fucking word. Then there's the police. They got Stingray and Dirtbox, various levels of hierarchical security. That's DHS. Low level. Then you have bigger databases at higher level security. That's just the nature of hierarchy and security. And what did we get for all that? And all of our money to make all of this? Well, we got Hades. High accuracy detection exploitation system with multi-domain sensing system. And when I bring this up and I say command and control Wednesday, September 14th, everybody goes, well, I don't know what that means. Well, that's because the people that you're trusting to tell you anything real have been lying to you. And I showed everybody that, and I said, hey, as long as you don't know about the body part involved with the telemetry for electronic warfare, telemetry, T-E-L-E-M-E-T-R-Y. Now go Google that word. Aim and fire. Oh, there's chakras back there on the wall. That sign, that's your circulatory system. For 6,000 years, the human body has had a wireless, invisible body part that goes in tandem with your nerves and your circulatory system. Now, I want to target your heart tissue on the inside of you with an electrical signal. You think I'm going to need to know where your veins and arteries cross the most? Okay, so 150 years ago, I'm going to take that human anatomy away. Now it's gone. For 150 years, if you say, aura, that's what people do. Oh, come on, that's for yoga. Meanwhile, it's in the highest level of information surveillance and reconnaissance, all 60 years plus now. And now, all of a sudden, where's the digital ID coming from? Oh, it's brand new. No, it's been here since the 50s. Yeah, did you know that we have remote neural modulation on people since the 50s? Stepford wives, where'd they come from? So, I'm not casting spells with a sorcerer. I'm using the wireless to make changes to your feature values or your biosensors inside of your body. The feature values are changed in a model using software, and then I find where you are with Geomancer, which is controlled by Geospatial. These are GitHub, easily available web portal pieces of software. I log in to map a coordinate after getting your geospatial because I've got security. I can log in with a vendor from the Department of Defense. I can log in with a vendor from NASA. I can log in with a vendor from Geospatial. I can log in with a vendor from NIST. I can log in from a vendor with Verizon or AT&T, who's probably a vendor for Geospatial. But I can log in with whatever I want, and then I've got an updated location. Then I put in what feature values I want to change in your digital twin. And then I hit fire on my data source, which goes through artificial neural networks and other math computation to make sure it hits. Tell me how. Now, tell me how. Just like Amazing Polly in Rwanda, tell me how they're targeting you. I'm going to tell you how right now, yet again. So, we have a hidden body part for 150 years. Low Earth orbit satellites, while I was working at UW-Whitewater as an information services professional in 2002 and 2003. And I saw the IBM equipment there. So when other people made the accusations with Fauci, not just Tory playing a clip of somebody accusing him of it, but other people, that HIV was made to take away the human immune system. And I thought, well, that's kind of funky, but okay. But I found the actual software that connected to it with IBM underground with low Earth orbit satellites. And while I was cleaning out the stock room by the data center at UW Whitewater, there were whole pallets of this. Big, huge IBM software and equipment, some of which never got used. And I'm like, why did you keep it then? And it's all special stamped from Microsoft, very specifically. Even the instructions had different writing in them than others, which was normal for education in different facilities due to the networking security, which wasn't much on ARPANET, but what they did have, right? Milnet type of stuff underground. Anyways, so your biofield is 80% of your immune system. Now, most people have no fucking idea, because when I ask you what organs comprise the immune system, then we have the thymus, the bone marrow, the lymphatic, your vessels, your spleen, and your skin. There's your biofield. And the electrical, lymphatic, and vasculature, your adrenal system, 40 to 60% of your enzymatic response with your hormone control. It's all here in the electrical homeostasis of that body part. And they have it with Project Salus, which has been around since 1954, watching every phase and phase state of every cell in your body, down to the bone marrow. And everybody went, that's impossible. And I said, go listen to Dr. Brian Artis. He's going to tell you that's Project Salus, watching Humetrix iPads with an intensivist, and the AI makes the decision for precision AI healthcare. Then you're going to see it again and again, ever since COVID deployed. AI precision healthcare, electroceuticals, therapeutics, nanoavionics, telemedicine, telehealth. We're going to fly a drone over your home. Wireless healthcare. It's here. Biomedical wireless tissue engineering. I said, how did we suddenly get here? We can even do remote surgery. Dr. Anna showed it with Professor Ian's metamaterial stuff and the 6G body area network materials, some of which tech docs I've read here on the channel. How did they do it? Because back in the 60s, they have radio frequency bands like Malfoy has for his business that are medical, industrial, and scientific. The 2.4 terahertz low power for the biosensors, terahertz bullets, all sorts of things to make a physical change, biological to digital, digital to biological, is right here in that low power. It's called 6G low pan for the 2.4 terahertz low power, working with the metamaterials from Professor Ian. Now this right here, the medical implant communication system, this is from the 50s and 60s with RFID in humans. Oh, we need a chip. They already chipped people like dogs for 2 fucking decades. By the 80s, they didn't need a chip anymore. They had the wireless and EEG overlay from all the testing with HemiSync and Gateway. Wireless tissue engineering and wirelessly reading your DNA. Okay? Okay. Wide body area network metrics, everything they can do inside your body since 1995. Medical body area network mandated by the FCC in 2014. Example of a simple biosensor. Industrial Internet of Things that has the ambient, the real-time, the swarm, and the cognitive that you can cut off all other networks, and they still have this one. And it goes by the tiered effect, so don't worry about your fog and your edge computing. What else we got in the Synergy PDF? We have the interference hybrid wireless body area network information for the relays, so that if you're working on mitigation principles with like a nano peer-to-peer or something else, some of the metrics are here in this particular document. We have all the routing protocols for the wide body area network. I just gave 2 different examples. It's about the same data, but with 2 different places, just in case you're writing a different level of software or you're dealing with a different medical issue, because it changes based on that. Of course it does. It's healthcare. So then there's the wireless relay networks themselves. Same thing. Different type of way to look at their software with the metrics. Internet of Medical Things. That's right. Okay. Then there's the intra-band versus inter-band versus everything else. And again, if you're trying to get MacGyver a solution with metrics, this here will tell you where to look with the right phrase. Down here, you're here. These are all these biosensors out in this little cloud. Those are inside of you, inside of your band. And all of this is talking to all of that. Yeah, I know. You didn't ask for that. None of us did. Do you notice how they don't seem to give a fuck? Isn't that something? Let me show you how much they don't care about your opinion. When you go to Body Area Network on the Wikipedia, you're going to see this. And then you go to the near field channel, near field communication for that thing you used to have on your belt, or that little plastic card that you put against the building that has like a square panel and then you get in the door. Yeah, that's what the near field effect is. What is listed here? Because this is what you're going to see. The nano is inside of you. There's your body. And then you're inside all these networks and accessible to anybody who can hit a button. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Because you are right there and you are attached to the network. You're a node on the network. And what do we do with you, node on the network? Well, we harvest energy out of you, which is why ambient energy is illegal to harvest. And that has to do with the industrial Internet of Things. It also has to do with how we're routing between body area networks for huge systems of the industrial Internet of Things, for catching backscatter and ambient RF leakage energy, and for the new Smart City Green Initiative. You are what powers your coffee pot. And I'm going to close with the following 3 things. Human body communication, which is currently on the Rumble Dads channel, so you can take a look at that. So you understand that all we need is your biofield. They get an antenna and a nano peer-to-peer, electro-quasi-static. You're just standing there. That's all they need. Because your body is electrical and you do not shit ham sandwiches. Here's an article from Oxford to help you understand why we do piloerection here on the channel. Generating stem cells, and also if you need to block a puke ray and run, if the laser frequency, laser maser, isn't that high voltage, then you have a little bit of electrical buffer and you can physically still move. You can also disrupt the biosensors. This is an example at a university of some of the testing that they're doing internal to themselves, playing around with biohacking between their own bodies. And you can see that on the YouTube. They start their coffee pot with their mind. So, it is not a vaccine if it requires graphene, because this is what graphene is really for. Data throughput through human bodies. How do we know for sure? Please read. Which list has more? Non-invasive or invasive? Wirelessly available. Now look at all the computer networking terms that we have listed here for the wireless personal area network, the wireless local area network, and all the channel bonding, channel aggregation, the LoRa, the LTE, all these different ways that we're routing data through your body. And you say, no, it's only for equipment. No, I'm sorry. That is not what they're doing. They're using biosensors. So they have something called Sensors Open System Architecture for every branch of the military. And they slap on an EEG headset and they go to work. And if you're still not sure, we have a sensor operator recruiting video on the channel so you can watch them in their native environment. And they're not the only ones. But if we're not being honest about what people do when they go to work every day, and we're not being honest about college textbooks and what we're sending our youth to go learn about, and we're not being honest about what other people have power over, so then we get to go out and tell ghost stories. Like, count how many times the JavaScript is hitting your biosensors. Then the rest of us who have clear minds, we go over to the Department of Defense HDIAC Nanotechnology Casual Care video, and we watch them talk about how hitting the biomarkers is kind of a problem. But that's not the only place. We also know from the very front of our new Tech Metrics PDF, effect of coronavirus worldwide through misusing wireless sensor networks. Yeah, you hit the biomarkers too many times, you hit the biosensors too many times inside the human body. Here they are. Here's a listing from 2013 with your IEEE. There they are. And we misuse that by hitting those sensors too many times with too many databases, and people's immune systems cannot keep up. That's why you need the graphene to help it along. And welcome to your new doctors. There are electronics and electrical engineers, and they're now the IEEE Standard Associates for Life Sciences and Biomedical Tissue Engineering. You think you could have fucking told somebody what you do when you go to work? Rooting through people's veins and arteries? No. No. All of this happened at the turn of the century. They took away the biofield, psionics, plasmonics, cymatics, kinematics, and the molecular phase and phase states and hid it. Now we've had 150 years of lying through our teeth, and now we're full circle to wherein it's your fault. It was in the 90s that everybody couldn't handle pain anymore. Then they had fake tumors, fake seizures, fake autoimmune disorders, all of which are all your fault. You're doing something wrong, clearly. Then cancer, give a cancer, take it away in 15 minutes, according to the Daily Mail, not my story to tell. And then the nano diseases like Morgellons, which have been in history since the 1600s. Then you have people arguing over autism rates. Meanwhile, we're all being told sudden adult death syndrome. And you never stopped and backed the fuck up and went, where did all this come from? Who's doing all this? I already showed you. I'm not kidding. Everyone always asks me that same question. Your medical, your sheriff, your police, your lawfare, your main military, paramilitary, black projects, military, geospatial, and Silicon Valley with net-centric warfare, mosaic warfare, with cognitive technology threat warning system using a headset and an EEG to watch you through your veins and arteries anytime, anywhere in the world, with sensors open system architecture on the global information grid. So the next time somebody tells you that the aura isn't real, just laugh at them and be like, well, it is to ISR. Information, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Biggest companies in the world, Boeing, Raytheon, and the rest of them. And if someone tells you the biosensors don't work and the AI is not that smart, just go check the market share on directed energy weapons into 2030 and 2040. And then say, then what the fuck is that? And tell me how it works. Because if it didn't work, bitches wouldn't be making money. Oh! And then you better get busy figuring out how to get back in touch with that body part. Shield! No puke ray for me. Juice.
Hey, welcome back. Thank you for being here still. She's awesome, right? She's unique. She's sovereign. She's been smashed. And like most people that have got a lot of really important information, they've been through a lot to get to it. And sink or swim, survive or don't make it, right? So I appreciate all that, right? So what I'm going to do is get into my images. I've got maybe about 20 or 30 minutes of light, so I need to get through them. And so this is part one. And I've got a lot to say. Maybe there's more to say on what I share that I don't fit it in. And I'll just do my best. But again, it's not meant to be PhD level. It's meant to aim for the 7-year-olds to help get them to their intuitive infinite potential, right? And you as an individual to have a framework of all this sort of stuff, right? I'm just going to show you the first image, right? So I might have the actual image next to me that shows it better. I did some printing and I couldn't tell how it would come out, but it didn't really turn out that well, right? So the one on the next to me should be a lot better. I've just drawn some circles. I bought a compass and I got into my playing with colored pens and all that. I embraced my childlike creativity and all that sort of stuff, right? But I've just got this basic image first that to invite that we are physical, but we are energy and we have a field and that can permeate out. And I don't want to get into the specifics. It's just a generalized appreciation of all this, right? And these images about to help you appreciate the dynamic nature of our energy field from my perspective and how it can affect us and how we can use it and employ it. But see the state we have in ourselves emotionally, belief systems and all that can affect it and then allow stuff in, right? So if you embrace a vaster level of appreciation and don't block yourself, your awareness will be what it is, but the what is the what is potentially, and this is an ally to giving a framework of that. And it just will help sort of also translate, because I do psychic surgery, that's what I do, and I've really had to really engage that and anchor that, and my development in the last 6 to 18 months, right? And so I'm just going to get into these, right? I've got a few to get through. Okay. So I really invite a greater level of awareness, and I really feel that this will accelerate a lot of people of putting it a lot together, right? In a mechanical way that might seem simple, but it's taken a lot for me to translate it, right? So we'll see where we go. So I'm just going to move to the next one. So I'm going to employ some like this throughout it, but I might have the image next to me of the one that I actually print out with the proper one that I use, right? Sometimes it will be just white like this because it's just how it is, how it came out. But perhaps that's where most people perceive themselves, or you might as well, without appreciating all this. But if you appreciate what I said about the emotions and the information and the belief systems and society and energy levels and all that, then perhaps it's a bit more dynamic than that static, that spiritual narrative Cindy Dale one that I showed earlier on, right? I'm inviting a more dynamic appreciation, and there can be gaps which we can get hacked into, or their strengths and stuff like that. Just imagine all of that applies to our energy field in any moment, right? I'll just move on. What I'll also invite is it's circular as well. It's not just flat. So this has got front and side, right? But what I also do is I'll use an example of, say, me. So that might be you as a client, or a client, and that might be me, remote in and stuff. There's just, and say if I'm dealing with entities and stuff, I might show you attached to the front or the back and stuff like that, right? But just appreciate like the field is very dynamic, and attitudes and emotions and belief systems and energy levels, all that potentially affect it and allow gaps and all that sort of stuff, right? So I'm just going to move on. So what I've also done is I made this one, right? So there's two different types of circles, right? And this is more about, like, say, what you're willing to accept, your beliefs or your energy levels. And so if you're depleted, the outside edge of what you accept might get really faint because it becomes weaker, or you don't believe in that stuff, right? But also there's this outer range that is who you are relative to whatever you believe or not. And I would invite the influences in society know this, right? You know, if we get into the bigger stuff of what happened, say the Babylon massacre and all that, corrupt DNA and all that, the system is very aware of all this sort of stuff, and I won't get into all that now. I've got really cool clips and people, Val Valerian, that I've offered in the past, but Sabrina Wallace is cool because she's like the more recent Val Valerian sort of stuff, right? But I would just invite, like, the vast majority of people have this sort of range of acceptance. And even in the spiritual community, they might go out to a certain limit, but the what is the what is, and that's the dimensional mechanics that I offer, and the spiritual no man's land and all that sort of stuff, right, that I'll get into. I'm just offering that this is a subtly different mechanics than the broad accepting of the what is that I offered before. Okay, so I'm just going to move on. So earlier on I showed the image relative to the acupuncture sort of stuff in the body and that, right? And what I'm going to invite is most of society, and probably a lot of the alternate spiritual healing modalities and appreciation of the body and our energy and all that sort of stuff. The concept of that I want to invite is it's a bottom down approach, right? So this image over here is like a acupuncture body, right? And I've just got a couple of issues like the shoulder and the base, right? And this translates to our energy field sort of stuff. So I've just drawn the circles and some issues in the field and all that sort of stuff, right? And what I'm going to invite here is, say you go to sort of an acupuncturist or a body worker and all that sort of stuff, and it's like a bottom up approach. So you might find the energy issue and the block and all that sort of stuff, and they work on that level and they might clear it, and then it might, I'm not saying it won't, then that might relate back to the energy issue sort of thing that clears it, right? But what I'm inviting is the difference between solution and relief, right? You know, like you might go through things and do it and you get, you know, relief for a while and then the issue comes back or something else happens and stuff like that. What I'm offering is potentially the source of the issue is in your field at a level that potentially the practitioner or you don't accept, right? And society doesn't accept. And unless that's embraced, then they won't get solutions, right? So you might get relief and, you know, the body doesn't repair, it just alleviates pain for a while and all that sort of stuff, right? So I'm not getting too in deep in all this. What I'm going to invite is a different approach, okay? The alternate approach that I'm wanting to invite is going from the bottom up approach, is from a top down approach. So you might have the issues in the acupuncture level of the energy of the body and all that. Like I said, it's like acupuncture is an appreciation of how the energy transfers and translates to the physical body sort of stuff, right? But if you approach the healing from the energy field level to clear the blocks and all that sort of stuff, then that will percolate through to the solution of the issue, right? That's what I'm just wanting to invite here, right? It's a different philosophy. Because what I find is a lot of the issues that you might actually aim to resolve have no relationship to that over here. Like I find it fascinating, like, you know, for instance, I use the metaphor of might be working on a person's third eye, right? And the issue that comes from the feet, like they've walked in an energy bomb in the ground and stuff, and it goes through the meridian all the way up to the body, up into the third eye. So I might be working on the third eye, and the issue is related to the foot, inside the foot arch sort of stuff. So it's like, I just find it mesmerizing how our body works, but also respectfully how much the system knows how it works, and they use all this to get the outcome that they want, right? All the influences and all that, you know. For instance, like blocking your third eye, they don't want you to see what's going on, so you're trapped in this sort of thing, right? So I'm just inviting the top-down approach. So say when I go into a healing, I'll show an image relative to that metaphor quick, right? So this is just, say, my mechanics of doing what I do, engaging all the multi-dimensional methods that I do, and my sovereignty declaration, my audit and all that. So say I might, like, a big thing I'm into is the spleen, right? The spleen is like a USB port for the energy absorption that's all around us, right? And a lot of entities like to hook into that, and then they harvest from it, and then we're limited and depleted and all that sort of stuff, right? So I've got that pink sort of range, which is, say, clients out there, they might accept this, right? But the what is the issue might be outside the range in a high dimensional level or outside the field and all that sort of stuff, and it percolates through to the body that caused the issue. So I do what I do, and I focus on a region, and I get all the points that might be coordinating to influence that variable, and then it percolates through to all the body, right? So I'm just inviting, like when I do psychic surgery, I might be focused on an area, but I'm focused, like appreciating the mechanics of what it trickles back to the source of the issue and all that. It might be entities, might be remote influences and all that sort of stuff, right? So that's what I'm inviting, a top-down approach to percolate through to the body, right? And then you get relief. Like, an individual might not be aware of all this stuff, but after it, they might have it. Psychic surgery is like removing your appendix sort of stuff. You don't go into a swimming pool the next day. It might be a bit of body recovery, and when the body gets the energy back, it's fascinating. You might get depleted because then the body has the energy to repair the issue that's going on the energy levels and stuff, right? So it's just, I'm inviting an appreciation of this level thing, and a lot of people don't have the awareness of what's going on to them, but they're passengers to it and they're influenced. And I used to talk to a lot of people and all that, and it's challenging to talk to people because you might ask some questions and then this stuff reveals itself, and it might be going at me, and it goes at everyone, and I'll show you images later on relative to that. So I just prime myself for sessions, like I'm committed to that, and the people that have the will to invest in me and trust me, like that is a huge responsibility I take on, and I prime myself for those people that really need me, because people tend to only fall back when they're in real trouble rather than being proactive and stuff. And I love all of it, and I really want to help people, and I feel that doing what I do is the best way for that, right? And explaining all of this about the energy fields, ideally it helps you to understand what's going on so you can do something about it and sense what's going on to be the most hygienic being you are, and also navigate the best at your peak awareness level in this precious life that we have, right? So I'm going to get into some society sort of stuff and how your emotional state and energy levels might be affected and all that, right? I'm just going to go through these pretty quick. I think I'm running out of light. I might have about 10 or 15 minutes left, alright? So this is related to the energy levels, right? So if your energy is good and you're high and you're not blocked, and, you know, I feel there's a relationship to not only your psychic defense, but the range of your energy field mechanics. You're able to defend and like I feel data is out there as well, and awareness and talents and all that sort of stuff. So there's a symbiotic relationship to the strength of your field and the energy levels and your psychic defense and all that sort of stuff, right? So this side is like, you know, if you're really depleted, then your field is open, and the orange is related to influences and stuff. And you can see up here, you know, if your energy is like high volume, like to me, we basically need to be on an idle of about 50%, and beyond that, that's where our talents kick in, and our talents might be on the outside edge of our field. And the top thing here is like an influence trying to get in. On this side, when you're really depleted, it might affect your energy field and your psychic defense, right? And so stuff gets in, and then you get compromised and hacked and messed with and all that sort of stuff, right? And your energy might get harvested and all that to feed entities that are on a high dimensional level outside your sphere of awareness sort of stuff, right? So it's just some mechanics relative to life force and energy and defense and all that sort of stuff, right? I'm just going to move on because I'll just get through these, right? Not be too in depth, just to give you a really good overview and work on your multi-dimensional aspects and subconscious, right? This one I've got only one side, right? And I've got that one with the different layers as well. But our emotional state has a big effect, I feel, right? So it can be related to the energy as well, right? If you're depleted, you're in fear because you don't have the energy you can afford to lose, so you retreat, right? And you bring your circle in close, right? But this is about awareness as well, right? So when you're in a fear state, how do you think it affects your field, right? You know, if all the data is out there and it requires you to be able to perceive it 17D, right? You know, and process volume and data and all that. But if you're in love state, so just the two emotions, love versus fear, and all the derivatives of that, right? So if you're in love, you're in an expanded state to embrace all the data and expand to perceive, right? So if you're in fear, you're in retreat, and your discernment is down and all that sort of stuff, right? So I'm just going to show you another image in parallel to this that I've shown many times, okay? So this I've shown many times over the years and stuff, and the top level is, say, when you're in fear and you're very uncertain, your ability to discern isn't there, right? And then if you're in fear as well, you retreat, right, in the middle one, okay? And you don't perceive all the data around you, right? But if you're in clear and you're in love and you're not being influenced, then your ability to perceive is very vast, right? And you can acquire more data and the full range, okay, that's out there, and interpret things accurately in any moment, right? And this relates to the energy level as well, right, that I showed before, but I'll just go back to that other image, okay? So this is just another way your emotional state, right, can be appreciated relative to anything in any moment that might influence you, you know, relative to your expansion or your contraction and the data you acquire, perceive and state in any moment. Right? And also it might be relative to your sovereignty versus going into a herd as well, right? Fear of acceptance and all that, right? So just appreciate how society works on the emotional level of all the information that's put out there. You know, uncertainty is a huge variable in society at the moment. How do you think people are on their expansion, right? They're retreating into the 3D 5 sense and materialism and all that, right? So just move on, okay? I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I don't have too much light, I can tell, right? So this is related to belief as well, right? So you might believe 3D 5 sense, religion, or you might be believing more, right? Say the orange range is like a 3D 5 sense, but the pink is more expanded version. And then there's the what is, right? So if you acquire data or you are willing to take on more data rather than a rigid belief system, then perhaps aha moments is just outside your field, let alone gifts and all that sort of stuff, right? So energy levels, belief system, influence, trust in yourself, love, state, the vastness of what's out there versus what you accept and all that. Again, the energy levels in the body you might not be able to appreciate more, so you're just in survival mode, right? And influences might be at play. So you can't expand because taking on more data, it all ripples through. And you don't have the energy in the body for allowing that. Right? Many things, but belief is a big thing, right? You may not be able to accept more data. You know, like you've probably all had the chat of offering people and you get the reaction and all that. Yeah. So I'm just going to move on. So what I'm going to show is how the spiritual no man's land that I've offered translates to our energy field mechanics. Right? I'm just going to go through these pretty quick. So I've got the awareness journey as well. I'm going to use that as a template relative to the energy field here. I've shown these many times. A lot of these are in my sovereignty declaration at the bottom if you want to look at them further in more detail. So what I've got here, and it might be hard to see, I've probably got a better image next to me of the black and white because I got it printed out. But I've got the I've got the awareness journey mechanics here, and I've got the energy field mechanics here. Alright, I'm just going to show a couple relative to this. Because this shows the influences, and what I'm going to do is show you how they relate to the energy field relative to the dimensions and the belief systems and the energy levels and the what is of the vastness of everything. Right? So this first one that I'll get into pretty quick, right, is related to the levels of influence on the body and the field relative to the dimensional levels and the mechanics and what you accept and all that sort of stuff, right? So the black is related to the 3D 5 sense, the red is the spiritual no man's land, and the green is the pure source line beyond 22D sort of stuff, right? So if we related the energy field rings relative to what an individual accepts relative to society, the ones very close to, say, 3D 5 sense, the expanded ones are relative to the high levels of the narrative. If you remember those levels of the information narrative that I share, right? A lot of them might be affecting people outside the range of what they accept, right? And then there's the intuitive potential and getting clear and sovereign and all that, the multi-dimensional level, solution-orientated sort of stuff I say. So one way we can interpret the energy fields is relative to the dimensional levels, and that's just one variable in the mechanics of them that we can use to interpret, right? So it's just a way to translate all that into this, right? So the next image I'm going to show is an example of how going through the spiritual no man's land can affect us on the mechanics of our energy field. Right? So this one is a translation of all the influences. Say I've shown influences in the other one, whether relative to what you accept, and entities and hacks and harvesting and life force and all that. So this might be an example of being pretty beaten up by the spiritual no man's land, right? But it's also, if you've seen part 8 of my intuitive potential healing release relative to the vastness of who and what we are and the essence spectrum that I offered, right? It was sort of an interpretation of this, right? But this is also another interpretation of that. Say you're disconnected from pure source and influences and energy harvesting and attacking the body, going back to the bottom down approach versus the top down approach that I offered relative to healing. So me top down, it's like I might focus on a particular region of the body, but I'm relating it to all the issues that are going on in the body. Right? So this is just a brief overview of that sort of mechanics, of how it translates to our energy field mechanics, if that makes sense. And then you might have a sphere that's pretty close, but you're feeling the influence. Say you've had sessions with me and I've done what I've done, right? Or you've had them with other people that may be able to help. I'm not about relief, I'm about solutions. And say removing all this architecture through you is like serious surgery, right? Like you need to think about what is my potential and am I living up to it? And what might be corrupting me that's percolating through to everything I do, let alone, think I'm helping Earth or all of us in Guardian and all that sort of stuff, right? There's so many people out there that don't do any of this. Like, it's very rare that anyone does anything, right? So we have to appreciate what are people contributing to making the world how it is by being unclear, right? Imagine they're all like zombies and all that on the multi-D energy level. It's just horrible, right? And then you walk around people and all that, you go to venues and stuff like that, or interact with groups. And so I'm going to show you some society stuff and group sort of stuff, because my opinion, going to spiritual groups is potentially one of the most harshest environments you can go to. It's the most corrupt, it draws a lot of people that are messed up, that want to group together, that bring all their crap, that don't take responsibility for themselves, right? So I'm going to show you some group images, one relative to society and then spiritual groups, right? So I don't have long, I've got about 5 minutes. So this is like a metaphor, you with your connections, right, in society, and how you might connect with people and they might have all their connections and stuff, and then there's all this network of stuff, right, that have all interactions, and they might have different belief systems and acceptance of spirit and alternate and the multi-D, and you might have a limited view, or you might be very vast and expanded, but you might be in fear and all that sort of stuff, right? But just appreciate what I said. Ask yourself, who does any healing, let alone any serious healing, and then who has their sovereignty defined and their mechanics all defined, say what I offer and all that, right? And who actually embraces all that and takes responsibility for themselves. People do the bare minimum, right? So I'm just going to show you imagine this and then have an awareness of all the corruption, right? So this is like how it is, right? This is showing a lot of influences and entities and corruption and how you might get compromised and your level of your field or energy that you accept and accommodate, and the relationship between people that are compromised and other groups and all their networks. Like, everyone is the center of their own universe, right? They think they're okay until they're proven wrong and stuff. And I have people that are very proactive and they come through, and then it's amazing what gets discovered, right? Hidden, because it's outside the frame of reference, and people being hacked and they got blind spots and stuff. And it's just constant, right? And I don't want to instill that society is something we can't overcome, right? But I'm inviting, this is sort of the stuff that's going on in society. No one does any healing, and potentially everyone is corrupt, and people defend their influence, you know. They won't do anything about it. It's like a chore and stuff. And I would invite, just think about the edge that you have if you are clear of all this stuff and able to find a mechanics and a solution state that is impervious to all this. What can you create? What can you bring to this world that has an edge over everyone else, because your energy is clear and all that you create based on that is clear as well, when everyone else is so corrupt. And that's why like attracts like. People are governed to the negative because they're influenced, or they like that level of energy, right? So everything has an imprint, photos, creations, emails, all of it, right? So I would invite that being clear as an edge to all of this. And who knows who finds you looking for that similar energy state, right? It's an honor and a privilege when other people find you, I can show you. So I've got one more set to show. So I'm just gonna beat the dark, right? So this is related to spiritual groups, right? Imagine you're going to a group with a practitioner that's hosting it and all that sort of stuff, right? Because my opinion is spirituality and groups are potentially the most toxic environments to go through. And I offered like the multi-dimensional internet apparatus, like doing groups over the internet and stuff. It's not clear, it's not safe. The internet is just basically a massive portal that has no energy hygiene and all that sort of stuff, right? So just imagine, you know, there might be a lot of good people that go to, but it only takes one, and most people don't have psychic defense, right? So I'm just going to show you relative to the spiritual groups, right? It's not being critical on them at all. I'm just inviting a raising of the bar, like we all can do better, right? What if we all maintain our energy hygiene and appreciate a mechanics that actually works, and we invest and be proactive and take responsibility for our energy field. What is the potential there, right? So I'm just going to show you how it is potentially, right, for you to have a reference of this data, okay, relative to your energy mechanics and your energy defense and hygiene and the what is of what's going on, right? So this just shows potentially a lot of the corruption that goes on. So there's advanced people that might have good defense that can block it, and then there might be very vulnerable entry-level people or traumatized people that have unresolved stuff and broken fields and stuff. Then there's predators out there and relationships and stuff, and then you might be the target, right? Because you're aligned to pure source, and that might be a threat to busting all of this stuff, right? So I'm just inviting all this sort of appreciation, right? It's not to be harsh, it's not to call things out, it's just to ally to your defense. You know, why do you need to go to those sort of things and do that, you know, let alone messed up energy scenarios in public and all that, you know, alcohol and the fear that's instilled in society, and that ideally appreciating this level of comprehension of your energy field mechanics is going to be a massive edge, right? So I hope it's dark and I'm going to round it out, right? I hope this is an ally. I hope this helps translate a lot of what I've said, and it gives a different context to it, and you can see how it relates to you, and you can see where you are. Be tough on yourself, raise the bar very high. You know, you might have influences that are outside your range of perception. That's cool, right? You know, look what's happening in your life. How's your health, all right? Maybe there's stuff in you that's causing the issues that you don't even know or are willing to deal with, and hopefully it helps you to understand my mechanics of how I work and how it relates, and it just helps you navigate life on a whole different level, right? But I would invite, like, this is a new comprehension of the energy field mechanics, and see where it goes, see where it takes you, see what happens if you think about it and process it, and just see what you feel, right? This might help give you coordinates of things, and you can get aha moments and bust through things, or it helps tell you where you need help and where you can go and what your potential is. And I would invite, raise your bar really high, right? Discern, And what is the quality of life that you can have if you take all this on board, right? Who might be waiting for you to be at that level, right? Who knows, right? But I hope this is a real ally for you to translate a lot that I've offered, and then maybe review everything and go over it and integrate it at a whole new level. And let's see where it goes. Expand to the what is, and what is your potential. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you next time. Andre the Brat from Down Under. Loving life and loving being aware. And I hope this helps you live in a state of love as well. Right? All the best. Take care. And bye for now.
In December, heading for the city lights, and 975, we sharing each other, nearer than farther, scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world. Rejoicing in the world, take me now. We can
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.